once again. For those of you who have just joined in, I am Shriyal Setumadhavan, the conference producer of the Smart Lift and Mobility World 2026, and a warm welcome on behalf of my entire team to each one of you here. Today morning we witnessed a fittingly high voltage inaugural ceremony of this dynamic event, the Smart Lift and Mobility World 2026. I am pleased to welcome you to this exclusive forum focused on latest technological and digital advancements in vertical transportation. Over the course of next few hours, we shall explore how smart integration between people flow management and entrance control is transforming the efficiency of modern buildings. Before we commence the enriching sessions, we would like to take a moment to thank our supporting partners, Pacific Asia Lift and Escalator Association and Elevator and Escalator Component Manufacturers of India. So we will now begin with an opening presentation on the home elevator in India, a high growth market opportunity. This is going to set the tone for our panel discussion to follow. To join me on stage, I would request you to please welcome with me with a round of applause Mr. B.S. Kumarswamy, the Director of Monteferro India Guide Rails and Elevator Parts Private Limited. He is a highly respected professional in the Indian elevator industry, with over 3 decades of experience spanning complete elevator systems and market development. He previously served as Deputy General Manager at TK Elevator India and was instrumental in establishing global brands like Morris Italia in the Indian market. Requesting Mr. Kumarswamy to please join me on stage, and let's welcome him with a huge round of applause, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all for being here. My role today is not to advocate a particular technology or solution, but to set a neutral view for the panel discussion that follows. The subject before us, the home lifts, as a growing market in India, may appear a niche, but when viewed in the context of how Indian housing is evolving, it becomes both relevant and timely. The subject of home and villa lift reflects larger structural changes in the Indian housing demographic and lifestyle expectations. India's residential landscape is undergoing a clear transformation. For decades, urban housing growth was driven primarily by high-density apartments. Efficiency, proximity, and affordability shaped our cities. However, over the last few years, we are witnessing a visible shift in preferences, particularly among the middle income and premium buyers, towards individual homes, villas, and exclusive penthouse in towers. This shift is not limited to luxury alone. It is driven by the desire to space and privacy, multi-generation living, hybrid work culture, and improved infrastructure connecting suburbs and the tier 2 cities. As a result, villas are going vertical, like G+1, G+2, G+3 villas. A key point overlooked always is the independent homes today are no longer single-story buildings, but modern villas typically include multiple floors, bedrooms spread vertically, terraces, family lounges, and private parking levels. Elderly parents living alongside younger handles. In effect, while housing is becoming horizontal in layout, it is also becoming vertical in usage. This is where the conversation around home elevators naturally affect. Traditionally, lifts in individual homes were seen as pure luxury, limited to an exceeding email small segment, considered of late even as a retrofit. The perceptions are changing. Today, home lifts are increasingly discussed during the planning stage as a part of the future-ready design, as a solution for comfort, safety, and long-term stability. For many homeowners, the question is shifting from why should I put an elevator? It's transforming to should I plan for one now or later? Over the next few minutes, I briefly touch upon what do we mean by home lift, why demand is emerging, the role of compliance and standards, and what the data suggests about the road ahead. This will help create a common baseline before the panel discussions. Now, overview, what is a home lift? As defined under IS 15259, a home lift is a lift specifically designed for private homes with usage restricted to primarily the residents of the private homes. The standard emphasis suitability for elderly and wheelchair users, quite smooth, jerk-free operation and ease of operations. The distinction matters because home lifts are designed around people and usage patterns and not just performance parameters. Let us reflect on what is happening in Indian homes today. Take a moment to just see this image. This is not a rare situation. It is happening at homes across the country every day. As parents grow older, something as ordinary as a staircase becomes a physical challenge. It can mean strain, risk of falls, and loss of independence. And for the families, it becomes constant worry. This is where home elevators are changing the state. Homes are increasingly multi-level, occupied by multi-generation families, designed for long-term living. Mobility challenges often emerge after construction, not before, and this is where planning for vertical movement becomes unseen. Look at this video, a pet dog which is suffering from osteoporosis at a Mumbai project, unable to manage stairs, and is being supported with a mobility device. The family has invested significantly not because of luxury, but because it is emotional. Home elevators and mobility solutions are moving from being viewed as luxury additions to being seen as solutions for safety, dignity, and independence. Mobility is not only a convenience, but is also an act of encompass. Compassion begins in the heart, but it must be built into our homes. This is where the villa planning meets the elevator engineering. The lifting mechanism of home lifts as per IS 15259, Amendment 1 in villas, are suggesting about hydraulic home lifts, compact emerald systems, simple trap type system, and energy efficient and low noise operations. As highlighted in this slide, the villas and the landed homes in India are growing at a CAGR of approximately 11.2% of CAGR, and of the total luxury residential real estate as per the market survey of 2025, 37.6% of the luxury residential villas are with the villas and landed homes. Another insight from the market observation is geographically spread. Demand for home lifts is longer and limited to Tier 1 cities. We are seeing increasing interest from peripheral metro regions, Tier 2 cities, lifestyles and second homes. Those regionally typical feature larger plots, G+2 and G+3 homes, greater openness to early lift planning, and this suggests that the home lift market is broadening and not concentrating. The compliance requirements which is covered under 15259 is 2002 and Amendment number 1 of September 2012 and IS 17900. The next standard is the Part 7 lifts for special applications, Section 3 home lifts, IS 17900 P7S3, lift for transport of persons and goods are standard under development. As per the old 15259 2002 amendment, the number of passengers or the weight should not be between 204 kg and 272 kgs, and the car speed should not exceed 0.2 meter per second and has a maximum rise of 12 meters. And you should also have the precautions against free fall, excessive speed, unintended car movement, and creeping of the car. And there is a section about the elevator pit and also on the overheads. The West Bengal Lift Escalator and Travelator Rules 2022 Clause 80 states that home lifts single phase within the state of West Bengal are not covered by the Act. So it's I think in the morning we had a session about the One Nation, One Lift Act. So if we do not have a uniformity of lift acts throughout India, then we will have some issues. Then lifts at home with speed higher than 0.2 meter per second are classified as passenger elevators and to follow IS 17900. This distinction is essential for safety, compliance, and long-term credibility of the industry. These are some of the case studies of home lifts in India. Then we come up to what is the road ahead and the way together. What this table shows is why the luxury housing market in India is set to grow faster over the next few years. First, India is creating wealth at the top very rapidly. The number of ultra high net worth individuals is increasing, especially in cities like Mumbai, Delhi, NCR, and Bangalore. As wealth grows, people do not just buy homes, they buy larger premium homes with better comfort and status. This is a long-term driver and adds the biggest push to growth. Second, our major cities are upgrading their infrastructure. New metros, expressways, airports, and redevelopment projects are pushing land prices up in the core in city areas. When the land becomes expensive, developers go vertical and premium, which naturally supports luxury apartments, high-rise living, and better living markets and lifestyle markets like Goa, and it's becoming the mainstream of rather than niche markets. Finally, luxury high-rise living is still under penetration in India. Because it's a low penetration compared to global cities. Very few Indian buyers currently live in the luxury high-rise homes. That means the growth runway is still wide open, especially in tier 1 cities with Mumbai and Bangalore leading the way. So when we put all this together, wealth creation, rising land values, premium lifestyle expectation, and low current penetrates, these collectively creates a strong multi-year growth engine for the luxury residential ecosystem. We are now, when we talk about the home elevator market, we also have to stress on the serious concerns that is emerging alongside the growth. As demand for luxury homes and private elevator increases, not all the offerings in the market are what they claim to be. We are seeing some companies projecting themselves as 100% subsidiaries of foreign brands when in reality they are not. We also see misrepresentation of component origin, products being marketed as imported of European norms while they are locally sourced or unverified. For a homeowner, this is extremely difficult to judge. Most home buyers are not elevator experts. They naturally trust brochures, brand names, and sales pitches. Unfortunately, this information gap creates a trap. The real risk here is not commercial, it is safety. An elevator is not a lifestyle product, it's a safety critical system, and every day families, children, and elderly parents travel in the elevators. False claims about origin, testing, or brand affiliation can lead to compromised engineering, poor reliability, and unsafe elevating solutions inside private homes. This is why transparency matters. Homeowners must know who actually manufactures the components, where responsibility if something goes wrong, and who takes the responsibility. As an industry, our credibility will be judged not by growth numbers, but by safety, honesty, and compliance. Luxury should never come at the cost of safety. Rather than drawing conclusions, I would leave free now with a few questions for the panel to explore. How sustainable is this growth? Is demand driven more by necessity or aspiration? How early should lifts be integrated into village design? And how do we balance cost, safety, and compliance? To conclude, home and villa lifts represent more than a product category. They reflect how India is choosing us. With this connect, I now hand over to the panelists who will share their perspectives on the evolving market. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Anita, requesting you to join me on stage to please present a token of thanks to Mr. Kumarswamy, as he rightly concluded saying that luxury cannot come at the cost of safety. And I think with that, he just set the perfect tone for our discussion to follow. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. So, India's home elevator segment is witnessing a rapid growth driven by changing lifestyles and aging in place needs. This panel discussion now on home elevator in India, a high growth market opportunity, is going to explore how global and local players can capitalize on this market while building long-term trust for homeowners. I am pleased to welcome our session moderator on stage, Mr. Krishna Kumar Ravi, President and CEO, PAPL Corp. He has over 27 years of experience in vertical transportation, beginning with his career at Otis and Mitsubishi Elevators. Currently at PAPL Corp, he is leading one of India's largest elevator engineering and inspection firms. He is recognized for his focus on excellence and growth within the global elevator engineering and inspection sector. Thank you for joining us today. And joining him on stage is going to be our esteemed panel. Please welcome Mr. Chaitanya Potineni, General Manager, Johnson Lifts Private Limited. He has spent a decade at Johnson Lifts, managing sales across southern India. Currently based in Hyderabad, he oversees top-line activities for 4 states, mentoring teams to achieve high productivity. He brings over 3 decades of broad professional industry experience to this afternoon's discussion. Also, please welcome Mr. Anik Faujdar, the Director of Marketing and Sales at Vittur Elevator Components India. He brings over 20 years of experience in product management, sales and business development. At Vittur, he drives industry thought leadership and focuses on delivering customized solutions through in-house R&D, setting new benchmarks for efficiency and innovation in the vertical transportation and manufacturing sector. Next, please welcome Mr. Savio Joseph, Director, Express Elevators Premium Home Solution. Express Elevators is a company with a legacy dating back to 1972, and Mr. Joseph is an expert in customized residential elevator solutions, focusing on innovation, safety and premium design. He frequently shares his insights on market growth and evolving consumer expectations, helping define the future of the home elevator segment in India. And let's welcome the architect on the dais, Architect Leena Kumar, founder and principal Kumar Consultants and council member of the Wiki Karnataka Architecture Council. Architect Leena Kumar established her practice in 1990, specializing in hospitality, residential and institutional projects. She served on the core technical committee of the Indian Green Building Council and currently chairs ASSOCHAM GEMS Karnataka chapter, advocating for sustainable green movement initiatives. Now over to Mr. Krishna Kumar Ravi to take this discussion forward. We would have 45 minutes for the discussion.
Good afternoon. And thank you, Shreyal. I think today's panel discussion is not about high-rise buildings, high-speed lifts, large campuses, but it's about a very niche segment of products. It's a lifestyle product, and it's the home elevator. Home elevator in India is indeed a very high growth market, and it's an opportunity for most of the elevator companies to cash in. The growth is driven by rapid urbanization and raising disposable income. The number of high net worth individuals expecting high standards of living is also increasing. We are today going to deep dive into this segment and learn from the panelists the opportunity that exists in this segment. This panel discussion will revolve around 4 key segments. First is the market potential, growth drivers, market challenges, and future outlook. And we have a diverse panel spread here. So I think we'll have different views. So I start with Chaitanya. What are the key drivers fueling the growth of the home elevator market in India?
Very good evening to all of you. Thank you, Shreyal, for inviting us on this panel discussion. I would say in Tier 1 cities now, people are also looking for spaces for themselves. Of course, within the city now it's a big challenge, but there are many projects which are coming beyond the city levels. So driven by the need as well as lifestyle requirement, yes, the home elevator segment now is evolving. And to just say that, especially in the southern Indian market, places like Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and even in Tier 2 cities like Visakhapatnam, Coimbatore, now this requirement is really picking up. One of the reasons definitely is going by the need. And if I have to look at the segmentation of this, there are 2 segments in my opinion. One is that the houses which are already existing, the independent villas or bungalows, and the second one which is now taking shape in development of a lot of these villa gated communities. So if you see segment wise, both are a little different, because one would require something which has to be designed for the current need of the place, whereas the second one, it's already being treated that there has to be elevator, there is a basic need of the elevator. So the driving factor are on two accounts. One is the need, second is the lifestyle. But of course, the second part also has its own segment, because the villas which are getting constructed, something which is like below 5 crores value, it is more driven by the need of the product. Whereas people who are flush with funds, the high net worth individuals, lifestyle is also one of the requirement, aesthetics of the product, that also is in the foray. So basically segmentation could be in two parts. One, the value wise, second is the demography.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Now, since you have spoken about segmentation, I will take it forward. I will ask Ms. Leena Kumar, how is the market segmented in reality? As an architect, you must be having a better idea about it. So like luxury, premium, mid-range, and which segments do you think are the growing segments amongst the villas and the home elevator market?
Well, the luxury segment in India has always been there, and they've always been the pioneers in, installing in their residences whatever comes out the latest. But apart from that, the mid segment is growing very fast in our country, and especially in Bangalore, with reference to Bangalore, because we have, Bangalore being the IT head, we have youngsters who have traveled the world, who have seen, and who come back with ideas that have been imported from across the globe. And most of them, I would say 90% of them, even if it's a ground plus one floor penthouse, they all want home elevator in it. And very often we retrofit the whole thing, because the apartments don't come with it, and we have to break slabs, put beams inside, and make space for a home elevator, which has to be UPS driven and not generator, because then it remains within their control. The luxury market has not a problem, because generally it's always designed. It's not normally retrofitted, because they have the money to buy, to design, and build it as per what they want to do. And as architects, we have a fairly large free hand to be creative and to do our best creative inputs into these sectors. But I think the mid sector is what is growing the fastest, and I believe in home elevators. See, there are two things in home elevators. In the industry of home elevators, firstly, the reach to architects and also to the general public is not so deep. While everybody knows elevators, they know them by name, in the home elevator segment, we do not know them by name. Even as architects, we are often looking for people who will supply a home elevator, and more importantly, who will maintain it, because that's as important. And, even as architects, we also would like to recommend someone whom we have faith in, whom we know will be there to service it. To provide something new is always easy. Anyone can. But what we really look at is an after-sales service. That's one thing. The other thing that we also always look at is someone whom you can connect with easily, someone whom you can pick up the phone and say, look, there's a problem in this particular project. And the person reacts and deals with it. Not says, come tomorrow, come the day after, not pick up the phone. Because eventually as architects, we are responsible for what we recommend. And we want to be sure that what we recommend is good and the delivery and maintenance is good. That's what we're looking at. But I believe it's a fantastic market. It's a brilliant market. Everybody's using it for a ground plus one floor house. And as time goes on, buildings are becoming much more technology intense. So most spaces have automation. Everything is automated, and then you have a gym. Fortunately, the gym is not automated as yet. You've got to sweat a little bit for it. But so the elevator forms a part of it. It's part of technology. It's part of automation. Nobody wants to walk. No one wants to climb. Everybody wants things easy. If you ask me from my generation, I'd always climb. And when we started our practice, if it's a ground plus one floor villa, nobody had an elevator. No one even thought of it. You thought you'd climb, but not anymore. So I believe there's a great potential for home elevators in our country.
I have a follow-up question for you again. So can you define the mid-segment villa? So that would give a fair idea about, because you said that is a big growth market. So that will give us a fair idea about the segment that we are targeting.
The mixed segment market, I would say, is anyone who is willing to invest between 1 crore to 5 crores. And the number of people who are willing to invest that is very high. It's high. That's what I would say. The luxury segment is 50, 60, 100 crores. And the premium would be about 30 crores. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much. Now, Anik, I want to ask you a question. Which regions or cities in India do you think is offering the most growth for the home elevator market in India?
South definitely stands out. Southern India has been historically across different industries had been leaders in adopting technology, adopting new things which is there. Southern India has been one of the leaders in this segment, KK, followed by West and North, which are predominantly coming up. And as Mr. Chaitanya was also talking about in terms of tier 2, tier 3 cities, where predominantly we are seeing the growth coming in from that segment. So South followed by West and then North are the larger regions in terms of where the disposable income, the amount of no-view rich in the community are high. So those are the regions where you see higher growth.
You made a very broader classification. Can you be more specific about if you said South, where in South? If you said West, where in West?
All right. So if I have to drill it down in Southern India, if I look at Bangalore is a big market. Tamil Nadu has got places like Coimbatore, Salem, Erode, which are not as big as what Chennai is, but has got a lot of money out there. In the Andhra Telangana belt, you have Hyderabad, definitely has a lot of growth potential. Visakhapatnam is something which surprises, with a lot of people putting in a lot of money in villas. You will be surprised, one of the town that perhaps we have sold a lot of home elevators is Tirupati, in terms of where people have got their villas, G+1, G+2 max, are huge demand that is fundamentally coming in. So the fact that Architect Leena, you spoke about, the fact that these are youngsters who have gone around, seen the world, have come back. These are the people who are not investing in their real estate in the metro cities. They are the one who are investing in the tier 2, tier 3, where they perhaps belong from, for them to go and invest in. In Western India, if you look at markets like Surat, Rajkot, Ahmedabad, of course, North, we see a lot of growth happening in belts like Chandigarh, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, where villas are being put up. Around NCR, you will have areas like Rohtak, Sonipat, where you see a significant amount. So predominantly, if you look at, while the home elevator investments that are fundamentally happening in, the tier 1 cities are being led by the builders who are fundamentally coming up with villa projects which are in the vicinity of the larger cities. But tier 2, tier 3 are being driven by individual homeowners. So that's the clear segmentation that you have there in terms of the demand that is being coming in from the market specifically.
Thanks, Anik. Savio, your take on that, where do you think the growth is happening?
Hi, welcome everyone. According to me, the growth is more on the mid-segment market, where not on the luxury market, where we see luxury market is only for the premium elevators, not for the market strength is less on the luxury market, but on the moderate, where you have the regular elevators, for accessibility, for mobility, for all these are the most important market right now, which I think is going on. To you compare this to Tier 1 cities and Tier 2 cities, I suppose Tier 2 cities are going much on higher. Then the Tier 1 cities, they're only looking into premium elevators or modernization of the existing elevators in their duplex. But you see in Tier 2, yes, there is a lot of demand for the elevators, of home elevators. Not only as a luxury, but as accessibility to travel up. Since we have today a nuclear family with our parents, grandparents, children. We all want to stay together in a single house, but want to keep the space between each other, give them own space. So yes, we will try to go vertical. Putting an elevator connects everyone together at a certain point. Plus, we have your own private time, private space, the whole system. Yes, in that case, Tier 2 cities and the moderate, not the extra luxury, but the basic segment is what I feel is.
Thanks, Savio. Next, moving to the next segment, growth drivers. I have a common question to all the three elevator people. I have a separate question for architect Leena. My first question to the elevator guys. What are the primary factors that are driving the growth of home elevators in India? The primary factors. I don't want you to deep dive into nitty-gritties, but what are the primary broader level factors that are driving the home elevator growth in India?
See, as was just mentioned that, the bigger chunk, the volume is coming from the mid segment, which is driven by the builders typically, most of the cities. So the buyers are somewhere, as Leena Madam also said, between 1 crore to 5 CR. So this is a segment actually which is driving now the growth. So, for that growth, actually one factor which is coming up is through the need, of course, that the elevator is today a basic need. And since the builders are driving, and I am observing that in the planning stage itself, in the architectural plan, the lift provision is being already decided. So, so anybody who's going in this segment for a buy between 1 to 5 CR, the lift provision is already there. So that is one good thing. That is the driving part of it. That developers are already planning for it. So I would say that is that's what is happening now. So that is being the key driver now.
Thanks, Anik. Your take on that?
I think building up on what Chaitanya already spoke about, I feel that personally the biggest driver for the growth that's happening in this segment is aspirations. India is an aspirational country, and the generation which is investing in real estate today, there is a very significant transition from how our parents would have built houses to the way how our generation or the generation which is coming up are looking at real estate or houses for themselves. So one is necessity, which is fundamentally definitely a driver for that part. The whole aspect of convenience and inclusion is one of the biggest aspect for that. Today, if you look at the generation which is investing in houses where they are building villas, or even if they are going into duplex or other similar setups where they have got multiple floors that they are talking about, convenience is something which is extremely important. They are looking at with people with physical disabilities, exigencies in terms of having wheelchair access, old parents, of course, that is something which is fundamentally there. And one of the biggest aspect is many of these houses, and it was very interesting conversation I was having with one of the customers who said that my maids don't want to go up and down on the stairs to carry or deliver food to us, right? We have seen in hotels where you have a dumbwaiter system, but at homes, your maid would not want to go and serve coffee to you on your first floor walking. So they say that, okay, that's something which is a very important aspect that I need to make it convenient for us to have. So accessibility, inclusion, and of course the aspirations of having a lift in your home is, I think, are the drivers which is pushing the consumption more.
That's quite interesting. In fact, about 12 years back, we did a project in Mumbai, very high cost apartment project, where 2 floors comprised one apartment, of 7,000 square foot each, and each apartment was provided with 2 home elevators, one for the people who own that apartment and one for the maids.
Yeah.
So they wanted the maids also to travel 1 floor by lift. So that is what it was. Nice take. Now I just want to slightly reframe that question to Savio. Don't you think rapid urbanization, lot of disposable income are also driving this market?
Yes, I feel the rapid urbanization, like the infrastructure which is coming out with duplex flats and the real estate the builders thinking about having different duplex apartments are also driving this home elevators into the growth in the home elevators accordingly. Yes, I feel that the way we see the newer buildings which is coming up in the Tier 1 cities are just going vertical above 50 floors, 40 floors, where they have been designed with an internal elevator. So when it is pre-designed by the builder itself, you have the opportunity of putting an elevator inside it. You don't have to go through the norms of creating a space for the elevator. So by default, if it is a 50-story building with 5 wings and you know that there are multiple elevators, that's how the home elevator growth, I feel, is going to be with urbanization too.
Thank you.
Just I would like to add one more point, sir. Now, many of the youngsters in the age group of 35 to 45 who are currently in the midst of the city and with reasonable income levels, it's like getting into a second home which is little away from the city. One of the reasons that builders are driving this and they are coming up with large gated communities outside the city or little away. So it's like second home and it's like a future planning. So aspiration plus a need driven together is happening.
Thanks. So my question to architect Leena Kumar, this has got some connection with the first question I asked you in the last segment. How are changing demographics affecting this market, like aging population, smaller families, all this?
Well, changing demographies for sure. We are a young country. Today when I go to, any of my clients who are doing offices, even residences, industries, many of them are still in their 40s. And I have often wondered, when I go to these offices, I said, what has happened to all when I say oldies, 50s and 60s, where have they disappeared? Because suddenly everybody's in their 40s. So it's certainly about changing demographies, yes it is. But apart from that, I feel that as a nation, we are in a state of flux at the moment. We have become a flat society, and our country has given everybody the ability to dream. So it means even your drivers, your maids, all their children are doing engineering, they're all getting into the IT field, they're all earning, and they're traveling, they're seeing, and they want to make a statement that they can also do it. I think it's much more that. So by the time it all settles down and then the country really decides on what we need or what we don't need or what is necessary or not, because we are an ancient civilization. We have always believed in exercises, in yoga, in meditation, but by the time we come back to it, it's a full circle. We've got to move that full circle. All items of luxury, of statement, are here to thrive, because we must show that we have arrived. And that's part of change, that's part of youth, that is certainly part of a changing demography, like you said, but it's much more a thing of philosophy. It's an idea. It's an idea that we are all buying into, that our citizenry is buying into, because everyone's open to social media, to TV, and I've always wondered, when everyone watches TV, You see all those expensive cars, expensive hotels, expensive clothes, and imagine the unrest it creates in the minds of people, because the disparity becomes so much more obvious. And I've always thought that, we should also have as part of our ads things that less than mid-income people can enjoy, which we don't show. But yes, it is changing, and so that's why all this has such a great market for it, until as a nation we stabilize, and then of course we don't know what the future brings. But as for home elevators today, I think it's certainly there and is being driven by the younger lot.
One more question for you. You may be dealing with a lot of emotional aspects with your clients, right? They express a lot of things, what they want in their house, how it has to be and all that. Do you think the younger generation actually desires a lift in the villa or the bungalow they buy? Do they feel that it's a matter of privilege or prestige for them to have an elevator in their buildings?
Yes, they do. They do desire a lift. And let me also tell you, the most difficult people to deal with are the younger generation. Because I always believe that, you see, when you earn money, it must be well earned. You've got to earn it through hard work and sweat. Then you respect it. But the youngsters today are earning it much faster than I believe they should. That's my personal thought. It's nothing to do with anything. Everybody's earning, and that's fine. It's good to earn. It's good to do well.
Because this is what drives the market, right? The desire to achieve, desire to have, desire to possess actually drives the market.
That's true. So for an architect, it's very difficult, because they suddenly have earned this, and they've come with these preconceived ideas of what wealth should show. And they don't really have a notion of design. Perhaps they're too young. Perhaps their exposure hasn't been sufficient enough to understand what design is all about. So as architects, it's a very difficult segment to deal with. Very difficult. They think, that they've seen this in some country somewhere and it's got to be here. And as much as you say, look, what's good for A doesn't mean it's good for B. But it's a tough market.
Thank you. We move on to the next segment, market challenges. I start with Savio this time. What are the challenges in this market? Just the challenges.
Okay, for home elevators, I feel the challenges are from the construction side, where we don't get the right sizes of the elevator installed, like not a proper pit, not a proper overhead. So the design is not implemented in the National Building Codes Act for home elevators. So thinking about putting in home elevator in an apartment where there is no pit, no overhead, that becomes a bigger challenge for us. Whereas as per the standard codes of safety, we need to keep a certain pit, certain overhead, and it's not possible to get it. So I feel that's the biggest challenge into a home elevator, where the design has to be from the start of inception of the design of the house with the elevator inside it.
Anik, regarding regulatory hurdles, what's your take on that as a challenge?
I think the continuing with what Savio was also talking about, I think the biggest challenge that is there is lack of awareness. Today, if you look at, and the point that Architect Leena was also making, that the youngsters today are coming with, they may not have seen the world, they do not have understood. Today, the view of a home lift, in most cases, people associate with the commercial lifts that they get exposed to on a regular basis. So understanding the fact that if they are building up a home or a house or going into a multi-story building which has got a duplex, the lift that will go into their premise is not same as the lift that they would have accessed in any of the commercial setup, is perhaps one of the primary reason why there are challenges even in the shaft designs not being proper. They are not aware of the codes and standards that are there. So that lack of awareness, I think, is the biggest, I would not say it is a challenge, but a roadblock to the speed at which the growth should happen. regulatory standards. I mean, we know in India, we have a lot of good things in our country. And I don't know, many one of us would know this. India is the only country which has got a definitive code standard as part of the BIS, which is BIS 15259. And Mr. Kumar spoke about it in the presentation before. No other country in the world has it. Whole of Europe, which has got so much of, so-called home lifts being installed, doesn't even have a home lift code. They've got something called a machine directive with just guidelines. So India has it. The implementation of that in terms of the lack of awareness for understanding and the ability of manufacturers or service providers to be able to educate is, I think, a question.
Since you've spoken about code, how holistic is that code? How rounded off it is? How inclusive it is?
We do not know.
Does it pose any challenge?
We do not know, right? Because it's like a tip of an iceberg that we are fundamentally seeing with the home elevator market in India. There are demand. There are people with a lot of money. They want a lift in their home and they are talking about, right? There are some very basic fundamental stuff which IS 15259 do carry. For example, it mandates that the speed of the elevator should be around 0.2 meter per second. Doesn't need to be more than that because you're applying a maximum of 10 meter travel height at the most, right? It mandates that your home, the lift entrance should be 800 mm minimum because you have to have the wheelchair to be accommodated for that. It mandates that there has to be a pit. IS 15259 says that there has to be a minimum 200 mm pit. But look what's happening in the market today, right? We're talking about no pit solution. We're talking about low pit solution. This is where the whole aspect comes in is the code is perhaps holistic. We do not know. But the implementation of it, the understanding of it, of the consumers who are using it is perhaps makes it appear that it might not be holistic. Maybe what we have is good enough to start with. We can always evolve, right? And at least the good part is India has a code. And now with this IS 17900 being effective from December last year, I hope this is something which will become more prominent. The next generation of home buyers or next generation of your clients, ma'am, who are talking to you, would be talking about safety, would be talking about important aspect, and maybe when you are consulting any of your clients, if you talk about these aspects, that these are some of the very basic things that are no compromise, maybe we will see a much more better aspect of questioning.
Thanks, Anik. Chaitanya, your take on it.
One of the concerns in the last 2-3 years which I have personally observed is there are a lot of newcomers as developers. And I find that as one of the challenging aspects because many of these new developers suddenly seem to be having huge occupation of large land banks. But then once they start constructing, I find that there is a lot of lacunae in their pit design. Elevators already planned, but I don't know, because of the space constraint or to save some cost on that, they don't design the lift well properly. So apart from the big builder names, there are a lot of people who are emerging. So as Anik said, uniform code, practice of the code. Now still we have some states where the licenses are not there. So uniformity is one thing, to follow it in practice. And obviously the new set of builders, developers should be educated on what exactly, when a home elevator is required, what should be planned initially. So that's one challenge that I'm seeing. So it can happen only through the architectural design, and that's when it should be taken up in the right spirit.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Ma'am, Leena ma'am, I have a question for you from what Chaitanya just mentioned. He mentioned a challenge about dimensions. That's one of the biggest challenges, and dimensions are predominantly an architectural aspect. How do you think this can be addressed?
It is a challenge. You see, when we start with, if it's a greenfield project where you have the liberty to choose your lift size, we are always very careful with it. But many times when it's a retrofit, it certainly becomes a challenge, because often the space that you have available with you is less than what is recommended. and yet the client wants it. So you only have two choices. A, you say, sorry, you can't do it. But in our market, there's always someone who'll do it. So, I don't have space for a lift pit. There's always somebody who'll say, sure, but I can give it to you. And he will guarantee that everything is fine and, and that's how it goes. But I do also feel that, as far as safety and the codes are concerned, there should also be something for very small elevators, like for 2 people. Because very often when you're retrofitting, you have space only for that. So I'm sure it must be workable. It doesn't have to be, the minimum size can become a little more minimum. After all, we are all becoming nano now. Everything's becoming smaller and smaller. And families are also becoming smaller and smaller. In fact, if you see amongst the youngsters, there are many who say they're just going to be 2 of them. They very consciously decide not to start a family. And there are many like that. It's a decision. So perhaps the code should accommodate that too. I'm sure it's workable, where you have a very small space and you can put in an elevator. It would help even architects. Because often, when someone says, I want a very small, I also wonder about the safety. Because eventually, if something were to go wrong, as an architect, you're responsible. I mean, I would feel responsible. The last thing I want is for me to recommend a lift and something goes wrong and it's not safe and there's an accident. That's my worst nightmare. So I'll tell you a small story of this. You see, once at home, I was hiccuping a lot. And my husband says to me, you know what, I just got a telephone call. That building that you were doing, the roof collapsed. All hiccups went, everything stopped. And he was joking. But I'm saying that's an architect's worst nightmare, an accident. So maybe the codes can, be a little more relaxing towards arriving at the smallest size.
But I think currently we talk about only older people for usage, a wheelchair to go in, and differently able. And therefore, I think the sizes have been stabilized for a 800 mm opening and whatever the pit size.
That's
so
true.
Maybe.
But you have cases of youngsters wanting a lift.
Correct.
Where they say, okay, I don't need a wheelchair, but I want to go up in a lift.
Yeah.
And there's no
I have a suggestion.
provision.
Maybe, I don't know how far it is workable, but majority of the times, retrofit I'm talking about, in old bungalows, you can look at providing shafts externally so that you have better space to manage rather than providing the lift inside the building. Maybe it will affect certain parts of the building, but that is an easier way to address it and manage codes and safety.
Actually, we have done that in some cases, but it doesn't always work out, because the planning is already done and we have.
Thank you.
Sir, one more actually major challenge. I do not know whether this will come in the next question, but I thought I'll add up now. We have done a couple of these projects, home elevators, for the builder segment. It's like a gated community. And after 2 years, 3 years down the line, people are not willing to come forward for the annual maintenance. And surprisingly, the segment is different. Segment is a younger group, 35 to 45, 50 years. But then after the warranty is over, they do not come forward. So even the hit ratio is just about 15-20% for a size of say 60 villas or 100 villas. So that's another challenge I'm looking at. I mean, why this fact is not getting to the mind that this is one product which is to be run safely, operations has to be good, continuously to be maintained well. So that's another challenge.
I mean, that's terrible. So I think it's also educating people about safety being a concern. And generally as a people, we seem to not worry so much about safety. I don't know why, but we do. even in fire. We don't often think about it, but that's a concern. Actually, if that is there, there should be a place where we should be able to report such cases with authority. Because if an accident were to take place, and it's not the fault of the manufacturer or the architect, then it must be reported and recorded, and there must be a place for us to be able to do it.
Thank you. So moving to the last segment, future outlook. I remember about 15, 16 years back, out of the major elevator companies, hardly two companies had home elevators with them. Now almost every large elevator company has a home elevator with them. And of course, there are smaller companies that have always been supporting the home elevator segment. Now, what do you think, Chaitanya, is the projected growth rate for the home elevator market in India? I want numbers from each of you, some growth rate. Yeah. And what is the current market?
Now, I'll come to some specific states, because then I'll be having more clarity what I say. For instance, if you look at Andhra and Telangana, the organized sector, what we say, it's about 12 to 14,000 units per year. Both put
overall
together.
elevators?
Overall elevators.
Of that,
and in that we are looking at nearly 10 to 12%. 10 to 12% annually, and that is growing fast now. So because the current outlook looks very good, but then how it is going to be sustained? Like many builders are announcing huge gated projects for the home elevators, basically villa projects. So I'm saying that whatever 10% of that 12,000 units will be definitely doubling in the next 2 years.
Your take,
as far as South is concerned.
I think at a India level, the way how we look at it is approximately around, I agree with him, around 10% of the market is predominantly in the home segment, which would be annually about anywhere from an 8,000 to 10,000 home elevators. India has a potential of being like that. The growth rate in this segment is typically, because it's a small base, you would fundamentally have anywhere from around 25 to 30% CAGR, the growth that we see in the next 5 years to come.
How about you, Savio?
I'll agree with Aniket regarding it. More than 20 to 30% of the growth is what I feel will be in the next 5 years. As compared to last 15 years, you can say more than 50% of the growth is what you see. But for the next 5 years projected, yes, 20 to 30% of the growth in the home elevator segment, with the new infrastructure, the new design of the buildings, the gated communities, with all these, and the 2-tier cities thinking about having the private houses, yes, there might be a growth of substantial growth of 20% too.
Architect Leena, do you see home elevators becoming a feature, a standard feature in all villas in the next 5 years?
I do. I mean, I don't know how many are being sold per year, but from my point of view as an architect, I would think it's going to be at least 50% more, because everyone who comes wants an elevator now. So I would say 50%. That's what I think.
And if I can just add on to that part, KK, if you allow me, the way how we also look at the future is homegrown Indian manufacturers building their capability in this. One of the points that you mentioned in the beginning, Architect Leena, was everybody knows about names of companies, global MNCs in the elevator space, but you don't hear names in the home lift space. That's predominantly because most of those guys don't have the product. And even if they have the product, they don't know how to go and serve it, because it's a very service-oriented segment. And for any global MNC for that part, it is very difficult. They're very apt to go and let's say take a large IT infrastructure or a large residential part for maintenance, but villa projects, maintaining 60 homeowners is extremely difficult. And I think that's where the space is being filled by a lot of good names who have evolved in India today, who are providing, though there are no national players, there are regional players who have built their capability of offering home lifts, and the future growth is going to be driven by Indian manufacturers who are evolving up in offering their game for world-class home lift solutions.
Okay, my final question for this session. Next 5-10 years, what do you think are the key trends and innovations in this segment? I start with Chaitanya first.
Can you just repeat the question?
No, next 5-10 years, what do you see as key trends and innovations in this segment?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very important question. In fact, I wanted to speak on that. I think what people would be looking at is a product which is very easy to install, something like a battery operated thing, rather than depending on heavy machinery, and ease of installation, and probably something where you don't have to have a pre-planned shaft, something like a a structure which is already supplied with that, so you can save space. So ease of installation, and maybe even on the maintenance cost, if it is not really out of the pocket, that will drive the market.
Anik.
I see home elevators going to be part of the connected home segment. It's still not. So there are a lot of work happening in the IoT space. The ability to call the lift with your phone, a lot of small things have already happened. It will become a part of the IoT space because it's more of becoming more and more convenience and necessity. So it will become a part of your home network that you have.
Savio.
I'll agree with the point where easy installation without the shaft, like what Sir said. So yes, people will look into a system where I feel the growth with something you just retrofit it onto a structured wall, installed, don't have a shaft. That should be the new growth system. Plus, like the IoT for elevators, like you want to call the elevator staying at home. This is the newer generation clients of mine who wants to call the elevator sitting at their bedroom. Let left come to the floors, see the elevator, and want to know what is the report of my elevator online. So the IoT, yes, will be something which the newer generation elevators will be in the next 5 years.
Ma'am, I want to just rephrase this question. What key trends and innovations you want to see in this industry in the next 5-10 years?
Sorry?
No, I want to ask ma'am. So what key trends?
One is aesthetics. The ability for you to design the interior and exterior of the lift as per what you...
I agree with you because home
should
elevators are bland.
They are, as to go with the aesthetics of the house. The second is security, because when you install a home elevator, a great concern is that a child will press the button and the lift will open, and they don't know they should get in, or you're worried they'll get stuck. So I would say both these, one child-proof and the other is aesthetics. And the last one is how small a lift can you give? The smallest possible lift with safety and security. That's what
Thank
I would
you.
say.
I think this brings us to end of the session. Thank you very much. It was a very delightful, insightful, knowledgeable session. I think there's a lot of takeaway for us from here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the session was too power-packed to have such a soft round of applause. Can we have that go a little louder, please? Thank you. Anita, please join me on stage to give away the token of memento, and we will start with architect Leena Kumar. Thank you so much for joining us today. An architect's eye only helps us design better, right? Mr. Savio Joseph, thank you so much. Mr. Anik Faujdar, thank you. Yes, Mr. Chaitanya Potineni, thank you so much. And last but not the least, Mr. Krishna Kumar Ravi, for putting all his energy to lead this discussion to what we've witnessed today. Thank you so much. Requesting the panelists to please step forward for a group picture. Thank you so much.